Good evening, folks, and welcome to the live stream. I'm starting a little bit early tonight because I unfortunately have to finish a little bit early tonight. So let's jump right in. So a few stories to cover tonight as much as I can because we're a little bit short on time. We'll talk a little bit about the Waspy women, what's happening with Brexit, of course, Nigel Farage in the US, anywhere but Clacton. And I just want to cover, before we begin on the main topics, just want to cover this very interesting story about, so if you're just joining the live stream, it's starting a little bit early tonight because I have to finish a little bit early, unfortunately. But I wanted to start off with this story on AI. So I'm going to show you a video, a collection of videos, very quick sequence of videos. These were all produced using AI. This is not actors, this is not CGI, this is AI. And then we'll get to a Sky News report about something that could be either potentially wonderful for Britain or extremely concerning. So you can see here a police officer and a stormtrooper. Very realistic. This is new software produced by AI software produced by Google. These things have been improving over the last number of years. Here you see a chihuahua coming out of a flying saucer. Like the chihuahua looks perfect. The flying saucer looks like a flying saucer. You can see I believe it's in front of the White House. The ground, perfect. The movement of the dog is perfect. Here we have some photographers looking like real people, looking like a real spaceship. You have depth. Here we have lighting from, astronauts or something on an alien planet. And we have an alien here as well. This is, no actors involved, no CGI artists involved. This is all created from an AI prompt. So you put the text in, say, create a video of a police officer interviewing a stormtrooper or a police officer and a stormtrooper, and this is what you can get. And you can change it to maybe add another stormtrooper or have a different character there. This is, there was a time when this was not something that could be sold, as realistic, but it's just improving all the time. And, it's just getting better and better all the time. Now it's limited to, there's no audio here, there's no sound, and it's limited to a very few seconds. So it's just a few seconds, but you can see the quality there. If you didn't know, you would imagine this was real footage. So Sky News has an interesting take on this.
I think you'll find the creative industries are extremely worried. They're extremely worried that, for instance, potentially AI companies don't even have to tell them when their content.
Oh, sorry. Just for anyone who's just joined the show, what time did you start? I just started a little bit early tonight because tonight, unfortunately, I have to finish the live stream a bit earlier. So I just wanted to start off with a story about AI first, and then we'll jump into the main topics.
Is used. There's a bit in the consultation press release which talks about how AI companies could be made to disclose what they're using. So there is a big concern there. So why does the UK matter? Well, the UK matters because really the US, the EU haven't worked out quite how they're doing it. And it seems to the people in the UK creative industries that Britain could end up being the guinea pig going faster and further than anybody else pro AI, with the kind of US tech companies licking their lips. And then we end up setting the pace for the rest of the globe in a way that damages the creative industries. Look, there's no doubt that some in government, particularly Lisa Nandy, do understand the dangers of some of this. And there are bits in the way that the government talk about it, about showing that they know they need to protect the creative industries. But the fear is that something rushed through, and remember this consultation, shorter than it normally is, part of it is over Christmas, ends up generating legislation that's at best naive and just tilts the balance of power. And this is all about power and money too far into the hands of the US tech giants and doesn't do enough to protect the already slightly beleaguered creative sector, who are fighting to make sure that artists, musicians, and all the rest of them can get paid in an environment where that's not very easy.
As I said in the previous clip here, if this is an AI created image or video, before you'd have two actors, you'd have somebody create the costumes, you'd have somebody film this, you would have somebody involved in the lighting. You'd have a team of people employed just to film this short clip. Now that's no longer necessary, and this is extremely concerning for for so many industries, because what is the future? The future is without employees, without staff. I believe Coca-Cola actually created their recent Christmas advertisement using AI. The one with the truck traveling through the sleepy village in the middle of winter with the snow falling, and there was polar bears watching the trucks arrive. All of this was created using AI. And that's really concerning. I've said we need to go like the hammers of hell with a UBI, a universal basic income, because for every job that's been lost to AI, we need to create a backup. We need to have an alternative. And if we can't create jobs in other areas, then we need to have a backup plan. And the backup plan needs to be a UBI, universal basic income, where you provide people with the money they need to survive. I don't watch television, it's garbage. Andor season 2, rumor is Peter Cushing will return. Yes, using AI or using a deep fake. It's slightly different because you actually need artists to recreate the face and all of that. But what we saw there now, that's something that could be. Sorry, I'll bring it back up. That's something that could really pass as a real image, as a real video. Anyway, guys, let's move on to our next story. Compensating Waspy women would burden the taxpayer, Sir Keir Starmer says. So the Waspy women are women who were supposed to receive a state pension, and then what happened, I believe that they were well, let's get into the story. So the announcement has been branded as a day of shame for the Labour government, who had been accused of turning their backs on pension-aged women. So the Prime Minister said he understood the concerns of the women against state pension inequality, often known as the Waspy women, but their demands are not affordable. He was speaking after the Work and Pension Secretary Liz Kendall issued an apology for a 28-month delay in sending out letters to those born in the 1950s impacted by state pension changes. However, she said she does not accept that compensation should be paid. Ms. Kendall said the great majority of women knew the state pension age was increasing and that the state pension funded payout wouldn't be fair and value for taxpayers' money. The announcement was branded as a day of shame by the Liberal Democrats, who accused the Labour government of turning its back on millions of pension-age women who were wronged. In the mid-1990s, the government passed a law to raise the retirement age for women over a 10-year period to make it equal with men. The coalition government then sped up the timetable as part of its cost-cutting measures, as part of austerity. The Waspy group said millions suffered financially as they were not given sufficient warning to prepare for the later retirement age. So a lot of women, had planned to go into retirement, and then they were told, actually, you'll have to wait longer, and they were not able to plan for that. So they had the rug pulled from under them. Now the Labour government is saying that they can't afford this because the compensation would be, where I think was 10 billion. Yes, here it is. Ms. Kendall says paying that would cost up to £10.5 billion, which is not fair and proportionate. So they're not going to pay them anything. See, the problem here for Labour is that they had said before they got into power that the Waspy women should be compensated and that they would fight to see them compensated. Now they're in power, they're saying, no, it's too expensive. I don't know if this is actually going to impact Labour, but it's not great news for... Well, it's not good news for the Waspy women, and it's not... The optics are pretty bad for the Labour government. You're looking good tonight. Are you AI? Thanks, Peter. Am I AI? Maybe I am. Maybe I'm not. How would you tell the difference? If I was looking younger, maybe. So I think it's going to damage the Labour government with a number of people, with the Waspy women, of course, but maybe with the wider society, they'll probably say, no, it's okay that these women don't get compensated. I think maybe Labour should have kept their mouths shut. Maybe they should have. It's probably true. Good evening, everyone. If you're joining the live stream now and you're going, what the hell is happening? I started a little bit early tonight because I have to finish a little bit early tonight, unfortunately. But it does seem the case that the government is not really looking after pensioners. Pensioners are getting a bit of a raw deal in one way, but then they're getting, the triple lock is being protected in other ways. Anyway, guys, I want to move on to another story. Oh, my goodness. Okay. This has caused a lot of people to lose their lunch, lose their dinner, lose their breakfast tomorrow as well. Okay. This is extremely worrying. So it says here, Nigel Farage and Reform Party Treasurer Nick Candy meet Elon Musk at Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort. Okay, let me just start off with this photograph. So why is this guy wearing a bomber jacket? I'm not sure what that's about. And the image of Donald Trump behind, I always ask people, are you in some sort of organization where it's there's a cult of personality? Look at Donald Trump in this image, with the sun behind him, the clouds behind him. He looks like some sort of Masonic figure. He looks like the Messiah, the Masonic figure, should I say, like a Messiah. With the sun, beaming through the clouds. And who the hell has a painting of themselves? As soon as you hear somebody has a painting of themselves, you should run in the opposite direction. This person is a narcissist from, I don't know. Now that's AI. Yes, unfortunately it's not. But this is extreme. But let's get back to the main point. This is extremely concerning. So it says here, the Reform UK leader says, and look at, where is Nigel Farage today? He's in America, not in Clacton, not in the House of Commons either. No, he's in Clacton. Not in Clacton, I should say. He's in Mar-a-Lago, where he should be in Clacton listening to his constituents, but he doesn't care about his constituents. Never did, never will, never has. Anyway, Reform UK leader says the special relationship is alive and well. What special relationship? Following the meeting between him, Holly Vance's husband, and Donald Trump's efficiency czar, it comes amid reports Mr. Musk is considering donating £78 million to Mr. Farage's party. So Nigel Farage convinced people we need to leave the European Union in order to get away from, foreigners interfering in British politics. And he's gone today to the US to take money, it seems, from a foreigner who wants to get involved in British politics or influence for British politics. Is that the picture from Ghostbusters 2? Perfect. Yes, it is. Keep it away. Cover it up. Oh my goodness. Thanks so much, Peter. Yes, it's scary. It's scary in so many ways. This is buying. I keep saying we need to take money out of politics. We should have publicly funded political parties. But then you wouldn't have donations. You wouldn't have multimillionaires and billionaires buying power, buying influence. Because if it was a publicly funded political party, then there'd be no need for Elon Musk to get involved or any multimillionaires or billionaires. Because as I keep saying, you could have 100,000 people vote a particular way. But if the political party receives a massive donation from a multimillionaire or billionaire, who are they going to listen to? 100,000 voters or a multimillionaire and billionaire who helps them get into power? These people either want something in return or they want to influence politics in a particular way. Sometimes they may donate to keep another party out. I'm not saying it's always about, getting something in return. It can be, look, I don't want this particular political party to get into power, so I'm going to donate to the opposition or the opponent. But generally, they want some sort of influence. They want something in return. And what does Elon Musk want in return? He wants Nigel Farage to be prime minister one day. Now, Nigel Farage is a Marmite figure. Doesn't matter how much money he has behind him. People will... People will vote for Nigel Farage or they will vote against him. But there's also the problem, and I keep bringing this up, is the incumbency. If Labour are not able to improve the situation, there's a possibility. At the moment it's rare. It's a rare possibility, a remote possibility. But there is still a possibility that Nigel Farage's party could merge with the Conservatives and Labour could do really badly and Nigel Farage in some way could be in number 10. Now, at the moment, it's extremely remote possibility, but it's not impossible. And if the stars align, or the planets align, I should say, in the right way, it's possible that Farage could be in number 10. Someone discovered Nigel Farage's Reform Party is an anagram for Pale RC Man Frog Grifter. Wonderful, Brad. Pale RC Man Frog Grifter. Perfect. It goes on to say in the report, the meeting comes following reports that he's considering donating £78 million to Mr. Farage, an ally of Mr. Trump, as a fuck you Starmer payment. Like, once again, who will get fucked through this? It will be the British people. You know, the same people who were told, if you vote for Brexit, things will improve. And now you have the same guy who told people to vote for Brexit. He's saying, vote for me as a fuck you to Keir Starmer. And, you know, they know that it's, when it comes to the vote, it will be a vote for or against the Labour Party or the Labour government. Starmer may not be still Prime Minister at the next election. Probably not. He will be replaced. But Nigel Farage would not improve things for ordinary people. He doesn't care about ordinary people. He doesn't care about his constituents in Clacton. Shouldn't that be enough of a reason not to vote for Reform UK? Anyway, the Times report that if Mr. Musk does decide to make the donation, he would do so through the British arm of his social media firm X, formerly Twitter, to circumvent UK rules that prevent foreign donations to a political party. The Labour government, and I keep saying this, the Labour Party, the Labour government should ban all donations. No donations whatsoever to any political party. Gone completely. Publicly funded political parties. What would happen to Nigel Farage then? He would have no influence. There'd be no reason for the multimillionaires and billionaires to back him anymore. Because they're hoping to get something out of him. They're hoping to, you know, if he gets into power, he would help them out. But if he was publicly funded, it'd be less of an incentive for him to back those parties, because he'd actually have to come up with policies that would convince people to vote for him. This is worrying. And what's also concerning is the media reaction to all of this. You know, this is corrupting influence. This is about corruption. This is about undoing democracy. You know, the same people who are banging on about we need to leave the European Union to get democracy back are celebrating the idea that Elon Musk is going to corrupt UK politics.
We can now speak with our political editor. Christopher Hope is in the building. Minus mistletoe. I know I keep trying, but he doesn't. He just ignores me. Right, OK, so bring us up to speed on planet politics.
A lot going on. Big things happening with Elon Musk. You saw the pictures there, I think, at GB News, when you saw Elon Musk meeting with the Treasurer of Reform UK in January coming up. Nick Candy with, of course, Nigel Farage.
Right, OK, Kevin, I want you to do the rest of your report standing like Elon Musk.
That power stance,
right, camera on chopper now,
OK,
please.
I do my best. Which camera? Camera one. OK, there we are. That's my power stance. I'm now Elon Musk.
That's the alpha male power stance.
My goodness. These people are... This is supposed to be journalism. OK.
Can you do it, Patrick? Have you tried this yet?
Patrick, I've been in the building as well, and I'm sorry, but I'm doing it better than both of you.
They met overnight. The politics of this is fascinating. Of course, $100 million is the rumoured donation that Musk might try and give to Reform UK, maybe through the X, the Twitter part in the UK.
So, am I the only person who has a problem with this? Apart from the politics of which party is going to win, am I the only person who has a problem with a multi-millionaire billionaire almost trillionaire, who wants to donate to a political party. Like, even if you're a Reform UK voter, shouldn't you be saying, like, wait a minute, why are we taking money from this guy? Shouldn't Nigel Farage win based on merit? Shouldn't it be his policies that people are voting for? Not that the fact that he has a billionaire behind him. Like, what does this... Nobody's asking the question, what does this billionaire want in return? He's not helping Nigel Farage out because he cares about British politics. He doesn't understand British politics. He doesn't care. I don't believe that Elon Musk cares about Keir Starmer or the Labour government. He doesn't understand the Labour government. He doesn't understand what they're trying to do. He doesn't understand British politics. What does he want out of this? What is his goal? That should be the question. Why aren't people asking this question? What does Elon Musk want from this? He wants Nigel Farage to be Prime Minister. Okay, why does he want Nigel Farage to be Prime Minister? Nobody's asking this question. I've yet to hear anyone ask this question. Why does he want him to be Prime Minister? Because he doesn't like Keir Starmer? I don't believe that's the reason. There's something more to it than that. And it's not just a fuck you to Keir Starmer. Merit? Sure, you're joking, Max. Yeah, somewhat.
UK, which is legal according to the Electoral Commission. There was rumours of caps, whether 100,000 quid cap on donations to parties. We're guided very strongly against that, but this government is looking at doing some form of tightening the rules on foreign donations, foreigners being involved in UK politics. So I forecast, if I was being Mystic Chopper for you, this
I like
5 p.m. on a Tuesday evening, is going towards a massive court battle between the world's richest man and HM government about whether he can donate to Nigel Farage's party in the new year.
Yeah,
I think that's where it's
heading. We've got money to burn, haven't we, in this country at the moment?
They are looking at...
Isn't it the job of the government to defend democracy? And this woman is complaining about, we're going to waste money trying to fight Elon Musk. Elon Musk should not be donating to a political party in Britain. Elon Musk should not be donating to any political party. What's wrong with these people? Like, how can anyone defend this? Because it's our team. Our team is receiving money. You know, people would probably push back on me and say, well, if Labour was getting the money, you'd be cheering it on. No, I'm against the idea of political parties receiving money from outside. Any political donations. Doesn't care. I don't care if it's the unions. I don't care if it's regular people on the street. We need to get rid of donations. Political parties should be publicly funded. That's the way it should be. Is it a cost to the taxpayer? Yes. But what do you get in return? You get political parties that are listening to the voters as opposed to their donors. Look at what the Conservatives have been doing over the last number of decades. Did they look after their voters or did they look after their donors? We have Kemi Badenoch now talking about a flat tax. Who would benefit from a flat tax? Do you think it's ordinary people or do you think it's the richest in society who would like to see the rate of tax decreased? And then, rich people don't like paying any tax. It's not about less tax, it's about any tax. So if they're able to get this idea of a flat tax brought in, it would reduce, and of course they would still have their loopholes. So they would end up paying less tax, while your average person on the street who's working would end up paying more tax. Oh, God. For less public services, because there would be less money going in, because the rich would not be paying their fair share. Remember, rich people don't receive all of their income through work. A lot of it comes through shares or sales of things like property or shares. Is this money, if this money was coming from the EU, yes, Peter, well said. Can you imagine if this money was coming from the EU, what would Nigel Farage be doing? Well, if it was going into Reform UK, yeah, that's okay. But if it was coming from into another political party, he would be up in arms over it. And he would be right to a certain extent, because we want to get money out of politics. Well said, Peter. This is corrupting democracy. This should not be happening. I'm dumbfounded that the media is sort of treating this as business as usual. Oh, look, the richest man in the world is donating to a political party to help that political party win. Like, what's the point in having elections? Should we just have the richest people in society decide who runs the government? That'd be easier. I know people in Reform will be happy. Yeah, I'm happy to give up my vote if it means, Nigel is in power. Is Nigel going to look after my interests? Well, probably not. But hey, it's, fuck you to Keir Starmer. That's the goal here. I may be poor, or I might have my healthcare taken away. We might end up with an American-style healthcare service. But hey, we got one over on the Libs. We got, we punished the Labour Party. Well, a message to you: if Labour, if the whole thing goes to shit, Keir Starmer will be okay. Keir Starmer is well off. He'll be fine. It's the people who are voting for the likes of reform who will not be well off. They're going to be the ones who are going to end up saying, just look at anything that's happening in the US at the moment when it comes to healthcare. People are refusing to call ambulances, not because the ambulance won't arrive, but because they may not have it as part of their health insurance coverage. Can you imagine? Insulin, I believe in Canada, costs about $3 a consignment, or a quantity, whatever, not a liter, but whatever you buy it in. In the US, it costs about $30. There are people crossing the border into Canada to buy medicine because they can't afford it in the US. Yeah, and then they're being arrested when they come back because it's considered smuggling. My best friend was murdered by a cop in a hospital in Pennsylvania. His name was Matthew Francis Doherty. I'm so sorry to hear that, Matthew. With American healthcare, your shrink can prescribe you anything. Dr. Feelgood. And people are taking all sorts of weird medicines, unfortunately. Like with the opioids, it's a massive problem, of course. Because the healthcare industry, encourage doctors to prescribe stuff so they can sell more medicine. It's not about looking after people's health. It's about selling stuff. That's a major problem. Anyway, guys, let's move on. It's nuts, isn't it? Anyway, let's move on to our next topic, which is, of course, the NHS. And here we have an American who believes the NHS is broken and needs to be changed.
Yeah, it's never enough. It's never enough. NHS spending counts for about 44%.
Okay, so this individual, Kate something, I forget what her name is. What is it? Kate Andrews, former member of the IEA, the right-wing think tank, who has a very shady selection of donors to it, appeared on Politics Live, where she was trying to convince people that the NHS is broken, the NHS needs to be replaced, and it'd be better some sort of different model. Of course, these people don't care about ordinary people. They care about maximizing profit for their donors.
Of day-to-day public spending in this country. You're saying you want it to be higher. So what isn't the country doing? Where are you getting 3% for defence spending on? Where are you getting increased money for schools? For
Kate, there are
capital spending.
There are trade-offs to be made. We're an ageing society.
So where are you getting the money?
To keep the same level of healthcare, you do have to spend more per head as we become an ageing society.
So where are you getting...
Exactly. So during the Tory years, at the beginning of when we had the coalition government, and then later when the Tories were on their own, what did they do when it came to the NHS? They increased spending, yes, to a certain extent, but not per capita. So NHS spending per capita declined, while in France, for example, healthcare spending per capita increased. So when the pandemic arrived, well, who was in a better situation? And credit to No Justice for pointing this out on a number of occasions on her live streams. The UK government decided we're going to spend less per capita per head of population on the NHS, and now, well, what happened that it was not prepared for a pandemic, and it means that the waiting list has gone through the roof. And now it's struggling, and it's going to continue to struggle for the foreseeable future. And the people who constantly said we're spending too much money on the NHS are now saying, well, we need to dump the NHS and come up with a better solution. Who are her donors? Well, she used to work for the IEA. I think she works now for The Spectator. So I don't know who donates to The Spectator, but we don't know who donates to the IEA. They don't actually publish. See, most charities and think tanks will publish on their website who their donors are, so the public can see and have an understanding of, okay, who's backing this organization and what is the goal. What is the goal of this organization? The IEA is not like that. There are other organizations like, I believe, Policy Exchange, another right-wing think tank that doesn't, as far as I know, publish its. I could be wrong, but the IEA does not publish who donates to it. Used to operate out of 55 Tufton Street. Now it has changed address.
Getting the money. I mean, the fact is, billions upon billions are poured into this health service. I take your point that it was less under a Labour government before, but during the...
See, the problem, there are two points here. Is it enough? It's not there was so much money poured in. Was it enough, or is it enough? The answer is no, it's not enough. And then we have to ask the second question, where is the money going? Because if the money is going into the private sector operate on the basis of a profit, so of course they're going to increase costs for the NHS. So is it cheaper to hire a nurse to work in the NHS, or is it cheaper to hire a nurse to provide cover? Well, it's cheaper to actually hire a nurse, but if there aren't nurses available, then what the NHS has to do, it has to rely on agency staff, and agency staff are more expensive.
The 2010s, real spending has gone up year on year,
but not by as much.
All you get are disastrous outcomes when it comes to the 5 most common types of cancers, when it comes to avoidable deaths. Which countries are always at the bottom of the list? It's the US and it's the UK. And it's almost as if there is something to be learned from every other developed country in the world. Look at a country like Australia. They're spending less. They're getting better outcomes. It's a very fair population to compare to.
What do you say about the fact that we have worse public health that feeds into cancer rates, that feeds into obesity? That's not the issue with the NHS. If you speak to the King's Fund, the independent health think tank, they say there is absolutely no evidence that one particular type of healthcare system like the NHS works better than, say, a social insurance model. There are huge transition costs in moving to a different system. The biggest...
Yes, exactly. If the UK were to say, let's copy the German model or let's copy the French model, there would be huge costs involved in transitioning. And we don't know if that would actually suit, because every society is different. Every culture is different. So the reason the NHS was working so well until about 15 years ago or 14 years ago was because it suited British society. Now, does that mean that the NHS is fossil? It should be fossilized, should stick to the way it is? No, reforms have to take place, but not what the Tories were doing. The Tories were engaging in austerity, and they were not providing it with the funding it needed. We have to keep coming back to this. Did it receive the funding it needed? No, it did not. Now, the second question, of course, is why is this individual constantly being platformed by the BBC? Why is she there? When they talk about balance, I understand if they have like a Tory on and a Labour MP on, or they have somebody from Reform on and they have somebody from the Greens on. But why is this Kate Andrews invited on to... she's from The Spectator. Why is somebody from The Spectator? You notice you never see somebody from the BBC on GB News. You never see somebody from the BBC on Talk TV. But you'll see people from Talk TV. You'll see people from The Spectator or the IEA on the BBC. Why is that? Who decides this? These people need to be called out. Every time they go on TV, the question needs to be put to them, who funds you? Who funds that organization you worked for? What is the goal of that organization? Call them out. If you go to their Wikipedia page, you can see it. The IEA support the abolition of the NHS. The kind of immigrant we don't need. Well said. Well said. Okay, let's move on, because it's frustrating. Like the BBC, and then the BBC would be accused of being left-wing, having a left-wing bias, right? Okay, so
that's good.
So good news and bad news in Northern Ireland. Harland and Wolff, who's always associated with the construction of the Titanic, well, has been a bit of bother recently for a number of reasons, but it seems that maybe there's a silver lining.
In the business world, so of course it comes from one person, Mark Kleiman, who I'm delighted to say joins us now with it. Mark, what have you got for us?
Yeah, that's right, Wilfred. This concerns one of Britain's most famous industrial manufacturing names, Harland and Wolff, the shipyard owner which built the Titanic. Now, you'll remember that Harland and Wolff collapsed into administration during the autumn after seeing a request for government funding rejected. I understand that the company is now on the brink of more positive news, which is that it's about to unveil a £70 million government-backed rescue deal with the Spanish shipbuilder Navantia. Now, these discussions have been...
Okay, now is this good news? As was pointed out here by Galloper Thompson, 70 million will last a wet week. They're at last chance saloon to make that place productive. This is somebody who's based in Northern Ireland. 70 million sounds like a lot of money, but is it going to turn things around for Harland? Like, if the business model is broken, so there are a number of problems Harland and Wolff has faced. They're facing stiff competition from China. It's very difficult to compete with China. They're struggling because of broken supply chains, because of Brexit, and there are a whole range of other problems when it comes to staff, infrastructure, things like that, that are making it difficult for Harland and Wolff to continue to operate. Like, sometimes if a business is not viable, it just needs to go. What you need to do is provide, extra jobs try to provide training and some sort of transition for the workers of that industry. But, maybe I think this is a case of the government throwing good money after bad. Harland and Wolff has come to the end of the line. Maybe it's going to be sold off to this Spanish company and something can be achieved of it. But I think, it's a waste of money, waste of taxpayer money, £70 million. It could be spent on something a bit more, something better. Alistair, thank you so much for that super chat. So private health insurance in the US has killed people and bankrupted them and their families. Look at what happened recently to the CEO of one insurance company. He got killed. Yes. It was interesting. I didn't want to cover it because it's a very sensitive topic, but it's interesting the reaction from the media, in particular in the US. Thanks so much, Alistair. In reference to the CEO who was murdered a few weeks ago. The public have a different opinion to the media and politicians. This is somebody who could be described as engaging in social murder. Maybe because it's these healthcare providers, health insurance companies, that decide whether people get the coverage they need. And, in the US, if you have this is something us in Europe, it's very difficult for us to get our heads around. The idea, and I compare it to like car insurance. Most people who have a car understand, the issues regarding car insurance. Okay, when you renew your premium, you say, okay, do I want to cover my windscreen, or do I want to cover, theft, or do I want to cover whatever, if somebody hits me or if I hit somebody else or whatever. And there are a whole range of things you can include and exclude. And generally, you try to keep the premium as low as possible, so you eliminate things that you probably think are not necessary or things you can do without. And in the US, it's a bit like that when it comes to health insurance. You say, okay, can I cover if I travel, or do I want to cover all sorts of health problems or all sorts of emergencies? What if I'm sick outside a network? What if I'm in a state where the network doesn't cover me? Maybe I have to get extra coverage for that, which is an extra cost to your premium. People pay thousands per year in health insurance, so that when they do get sick and they end up in hospital, that they're covered. And the hospitals, they try and take as much as they can. So you've heard stories about people being charged, like $50 for a drip that in reality costs like $1. Because the hospitals know, okay, we can demand a huge amount from the health insurance companies because they're paying, And then the health insurance companies just bump up somebody's premium because they know that, well, we can charge these people more the next time when they're in hospital or when they're coming around to pay their premium again. But there are also issues like, pre-existing conditions. So people have been denied coverage because they had a pre-existing condition. They had something that, either was not filled out on the form correctly, or that they had said, I had been sick, 10 years ago over some issue, and the insurance company decided, actually, we're not going to cover you now. And then people end up with massive bills. And thousands of people, I think, is one of the main reasons why people go bankrupt in the US, because they can't pay their medical bills. Like, we take things so much for granted in Europe, in the UK, that we go into hospital, we expect to be treated, and we don't expect to pay anything. We have, of course, we pay through our taxes, but so many people are paying into the one system that we can afford to have a system that's free. But we have to cherish this, and we have to protect it, because there are people out there who want a different system, like in the video before. Max, because the companies used an algorithm to decide who should get treatment and who are not. It was programmed badly. My goodness. So the guy's company had an algorithm to say, okay, you can get treatment and you can't. And then they discovered, actually, we've excluded a whole load of people. And these people died or went bankrupt. Well, it's not our problem. Mistakes were made. But he was still on something like millions of dollars per year compensation or payment. Thanks, Alistair. Harland and Wolff, constantly reminded by the press that we built the Titanic. They've done a bit more than that. Thanks, Peter. Yes.
Going on for some time, but I'm told by government sources that this deal could be announced as early as this Thursday, and it will be a positive deal for Harland and Wolff's 1,000 plus workforce, because, as I understand it, Navantia has agreed with the British government to provide job guarantees which will protect Harland and Wolff's workforce for an unspecified length of time.
Unspecified length of time. What does that mean? Is it a week? Is it a month? Is it Christmas? Is it next year? Like £70 million from a government-backed rescue, that's not going to last a huge amount of time. Like we think £70 million is a lot, but for a big company that's involved in shipbuilding, I think Galloper here is correct. It's not going to last that long.
Harland and Wolff was struggling amid a dearth of orders for new ships. It had struck a number of uneconomic contracts, including one with the Ministry of Defence to build 3 support ships for the Royal Navy, but Navantia has agreed to acquire all of Harland and Wolff's 4 UK shipyards, take on, as I understand it, its entire workforce. So after months of uncertainty facing those workers, it does look like they will have positive news before Christmas about their future.
And, it's important that they receive the support they need, but I don't see this lasting for very much longer, unfortunately. It's the business model is broken. Okay, guys, let's move on. Government to spend £6 million buying back thousands of military homes. The Ministry of Defence will buy back 36,347 homes, ending the £230 million annual rental bill paid by the taxpayer, ministers say. So this sounds like good news. The Ministry of Defence will buy back 36,347 homes from the property firm Annington in a reversal of the 1996 privatisation process. Privatization was a great idea. Who came up with privatization? Oh yes, it was the Thatcher administration thought it was a good idea, and then it was carried on by successive governments. The deal will end the £230 million annual rental bill to the homes of the homes ministers and officials said. Defence Secretary John Healey described the dreadful deal to privatise the service family estates as a fire sale by the Conservatives in the run-up to the 1997 general election. Today ends one of the worst ever government deals, he said. Mr Healey warned problems with military accommodation will not be fixed overnight, but called the move a decisive break from the failed approach of the past and a major step forward on the journey. He said, this is once in a generation opportunity, not only to fix the dire state of military housing, but to help drive forward our economic growth mission, creating jobs and boosting British house building. So yeah, I think this is great news because, there was a lot of criticism in the past about the quality of housing that was being provided to military personnel. And the extra twist, of course, is that, a private company was being paid for this. So the private company were obviously, getting the rent, but not doing the work of maintaining these buildings or rebuilding them or fixing them up, because these are private companies that only focus on profit. Why should we waste part of our profit, improving the quality of these homes? That's bad business. So it's a good idea that they have been bought back by the state. It's not a huge amount of money though, 230. These must be, the quality of this housing must be pretty poor. 36,000 homes for, what is it, 230 million pounds. Can someone do a quick calculation? I don't have a calculator. Remember at school, the teacher said you may never always have a calculator with you. So, but it's, let me bring back up the screen so you can see. So it's, they said 6 billion buying back, but then they say, oh, this is the deal that so it's 6 billion, 36,000 homes. Okay. So it's a significant amount of money, but it is but it's a step in the right direction, because what's the point in paying a private company huge amounts of money, £250 million a year almost, to provide substandard housing, because that's what it's been described as. This deal, thanks QA Library. This deal includes a lot of land and bases as well. Okay, so they may be able to change the use of these bases, perhaps turn them into affordable housing. This would be a great idea, I think. Retrofit some of these buildings into affordable housing. People probably wouldn't like to live on a military base, but. DW says, do you know a computer is a fancy calculator? Yes, but I don't want to start tapping away at stuff now. Can you give a Star Wars helmet fashion show at some point and model? I will indeed. Unique Unquiet Badger. I will do that. Yeah, I might do it for I'm getting close to 200,000 subscribers, which is amazing news. So I may do something like that. It'll be it could be a few months away yet, but definitely consider doing something like that. Have to figure out how to put them all on. Do it in a row or edit the video or something. Anyway. As I said at the beginning of the stream, I'm going to have to finish a little bit early tonight, guys, for some practical reasons, offline reasons, but I'll try and cover as many things as I can before we finish for tonight. Another story which is in the news, of course, is what's happening in Scotland. Former First Minister Humza Yousaf to step down as MSP, member of the Scottish Parliament, in 2026. So he of course was the former leader of the SNP. Former First Minister Humza Yousaf has announced he will not run for re-election at the 2026 Holyrood election. The ex-SNP leader confirmed his intention to stand down as an MSP in a letter to successor John Sweeney, explaining the Scottish Parliament election would be the right time to move on. I feel sorry for him because he's a good guy. He's somebody who cares about ordinary people, who cares about Scotland, and he's been on the receiving end of a significant amount of abuse from politicians and from racists and bigots, basically, in Scotland. This is a guy who's been trying to do his best. He's faced a lot of challenges, and over the last number of years as well, the last year in particular, he's had relatives in Gaza who's been deeply concerned about and trying to get them out. But as a politician, he's faced a lot of abuse because of his background, and it's similar to Sadiq Khan in London, where, you know, people will pretend to criticize the policies, but you know what they're doing is they're just engaging in the racism. So it's really concerning. So it's understandable that he would decide to go. It's a bit of a surprise. I thought there was a real push to get him back as leader of the SNP, but it seems the party has moved on. John Sweeney seems to be a bit of a boring leader, so maybe they will change leader again. Maybe somebody with a bit more oomph, a bit more enthusiasm, I think would be a good idea, but we'll have to wait and see. One final story before we finish tonight, because I have to finish a little bit earlier than usual. EU mood is currently that the UK government hasn't shown enough for there to be significant negotiations. That could change, but it would have to do. It would have to do so in the new few months, given likely timescales. So this is David Hennig, the expert on trade. He retweeted this post. So it says, a useful exchange on EU-UK relations. We have very good agreements that need to be fully implemented. This was posted by Mar Shevchevich. We will work to strengthen relationships with the UK on issues of shared interest. So, look, it seems the TCA will be up for review. Sorry, I post these things and then I don't realize I'm actually not showing the screen. The TCA will be up for review in 2026. Now, it's important to remember that it's a review, not a renegotiation. Now, the UK and the EU may negotiate in ways, but it's not about the TCA. They may negotiate in other ways. There may be things up for negotiation, but not the TCA. What we could see happening is, of course, the youth mobility scheme. That would be a great step forward. It would be a great benefit to young people. Once again, this is not immigration. It's been criticized as immigration, but the youth mobility scheme is just a limited 4-year plan, probably for 18 to 30-year-olds to come and work and study in the UK, not freedom of movement, and reciprocate. So the UK students could go to Europe as well to work and to study for a limited amount of time. It's not freedom of movement, it's not immigration, but it would be a positive step forward for young people who, once again, as we keep saying, young people have been wronged the most by Brexit. In many cases, they weren't old enough to vote against it, and they're suffering most the consequences of Brexit. Middle-aged and older people who voted for Brexit generally are not really suffering the consequences of that. So younger people have fewer opportunities available. Now you hear Jacob Rees-Mogg criticizing this, saying, the EU is just dumping their unemployed into Britain. No, these are people who are coming to Britain to work. It's not they're unemployed in Europe and they're being dumped in Britain. And of course, Jacob Rees-Mogg and others ignore the reality of, there's an opportunity for British young people as well. But they don't talk about that, because that would make it sound good, and they don't want to talk about anything from the EU sounding good. So guys, we're almost at the end of the stream, so I want to say thank you so much to everyone who came on tonight. Apologies, I have to finish a little bit earlier than usual. Before we finish, we have our one for the road. I hope you enjoy this. I'll see you on Friday, same bad time, same bad channel, and we'll have the usual time once again. So I hope you enjoy this. It's an old one, but it's a good one.
Welcome to Broken News. The search continues for a vulnerable man who's been missing now for several weeks. The 60-year-old disappeared from his pretend home in Essex and was last seen heading to a private airfield in a gold Rolls-Royce. Our reporter has more.
Police say they're growing increasingly concerned for the welfare of a Nigel Paul Farage, who was most recently spotted wearing a tweed three-piece suit and smelling of fags, farts and stale piss. Concerns were first raised after the frog-faced fascist fanny didn't turn up to his job here in the sunny seaside resort of Clacton, where he'd been spending his time betting against the pound and working as an organiser of race riots. There were reports coming out of nearby Frinton-on-Sea that Mr Farage had been spotted and heard on the beach shouting at dinghies, a pastime he's said to enjoy. But when police investigated, it turned out to be a pissed-up, braying seaside donkey and not the ale-reddened, leather-jowled waste of carbon as first thought. Officers say it's not the first time Mr Farage has gone missing. Earlier this year, after several weeks, he was found in the visiting room of a Connecticut jail, his tongue firmly stuck up the pocket old chutney tunnel of international homeless racist Steve Bannon. Well, police say while the Enoch Powell supporter is known to have extremely tenuous links with America that he talks about a lot, he also has familial links with Germany, which he likes to keep quiet, and very, 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 very strong links with Moscow. Back to you.
Thank you. Well, if you have any information on the whereabouts of Mr Farage, please call the number on screen now. Have you seen him? Can you help?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so guys, have a great week. Oh, we have a super chat from Brad. Thank you so much, Brad. Farage has been missing for so long. I claimed $5,000 from the local police after providing them with information on his whereabouts. Good ones. Thanks so much, Brad. Yeah, he will eventually be found, and it certainly won't be in Clacton. So, guys, have a great week. I'll see you on Friday, same bat time, same bat channel as usual. Take care, stay safe, and good night.